Welcome to Impact Media Presents. Today is our 19th live stream since April 18th, and we're closing out a month-long focus on celebrating and highlighting Black men, leaders, and fathers. And my guests today are all making a positive impact in Hollywood, on Broadway, and in the music industry. They are also making a positive impact in their communities and their families. Despite what you see on the news, there really is good news. There are positive outcomes and impactful work happening in the Black community. Today, our guests call Los Angeles home, and I'm excited to start this segment by celebrating three men that I truly appreciate and admire for their work, but also for who they are. With that, I'd like to introduce you to Terron Brooks, Michael Swanson, and Carl Seaton. How you doing, guys?
Good morning. How you doing?
Doing great, Kelly.
Good. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me in this conversation. One thing that I've asked a lot of the guests since we started this series in quarantine is how have you been surviving in quarantine, and how have you been creative in quarantine? So, Carl, why don't you start us out?
I will start. Yeah. Well, I've enjoyed this global pause because it's allowed me the chance to number one, reflect on what I've done, strategize on what I want to accomplish, and then get back into developing my craft as a craftsman. And speaking to other directors, talking about skill, various techniques and ways to improve as a filmmaker and a storyteller. Catching up on shows I never have time to watch, and then spending time with my family. So I've been enjoying this little pause. So it's been pretty cool.
What about you, Michael?
It's really been a wonderful time to reset. This is a time where our oldest son has returned home from college because of coronavirus, and it's nice to have everyone under the same roof again. We've been cooking together, watching movies together, going on walks together. So it's been really nice. It's been refreshing. And I've also kind of gone underground personally to read and to listen to different podcasts that I've wanted to dig into, to study, and just to kind of map out what I want to do with my life when this all ends.
Okay. Terron?
I agree. I think for me, it's like a pivot. For me, more refreshing. And as a performer, it's like I don't have the pressure. Things are closed down, so I can really go in and create. I've written more songs. I've learned to play the piano a little bit. So I'm happy for the kind of pivot and taking the pressure off of maybe productivity a little bit to be a little bit more creative. We have this time to do that. So, of course, being with my family and really noticing things as a father when you're so busy. And at the end of the day, you're so tired, you're just trying to get through. And this gives us like a full day to kind of see my kids in school, just see how our family dynamic can grow. And it really has grown by me and my wife being home our whole time. So, but yeah, really refreshing and a pivot. I'm looking forward to trying something new.
Yes. Well, I've been creative by starting this live stream, and it has really, it's been fun for me. Quite honestly, when I'm doing this, I don't have to do anything else, and I'm doing it constantly. And it has really, really fulfilling in ways that was even surprising to me. So we joked about this a little earlier, but Terron is outnumbered, but we've made him official. We have 3 out of 4 of us are originally from Chicago, but Terron is now adopted into Turkey. Tell us about your Chicago connection and experience, guys.
Oh, well, I grew up in Chicago from the South Side, West Pullman area. Went to film school in Chicago, shot my first features in Chicago. So I'm definitely a Chicago hometown kid. So yeah. And it's what I love about Chicago is that we all have a blue collar work ethic, and we all about getting things done. And I embrace that and carry that with me with everything I do. So I always represent the city and what it taught me growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. In Chicago, it's home for me. Also grew up on the South Side, and there's something about that grit that you get from Chicago.
Yeah.
Growing up, I was involved in politics because my mother was a precinct captain. So as a little boy, I worked on campaigns for Charlie Hayes, from the 1st Congressional District. I eventually interned for him after my first year of college. Charles Hayes replaced Harold Washington when Harold Washington became our first Black mayor. And we worked on Harold Washington's campaign. And then
that was my first campaign too.
Oh, really? Oh, nice. Historic. I'll never forget those years of Harold Washington as our mayor.
Yes.
And also the church, the Black church, had such a big part of my upbringing in Chicago. I was a member of Antioch Missionary Baptist Church, where Reverend Wilbur Daniel was our pastor. And Antioch was the church where all kinds of people made their stop when they visited Chicago. So, as a little boy, I got to meet everyone from Dick Gregory to Muhammad Ali,
Yes.
And so to have that backdrop, I think was really important. Politics, church, and then sports, from Walter Payton to Michael Jordan.
Yes.
So, and also I want to defend Terron, because Terron, I would say, is a native son, because we premiered All About You in Chicago at the Museum of Science and Industry. And Terron came in and was a part of that. And it was we had over 5,000 people come to a museum, an 800-seat auditorium, to watch All About You. So Terron was a big part of that and a part of that success.
And Terron, you have your own story about being in Chicago. We adopted you as a Chicagoan.
I didn't think I would love a city more than New York. And then when I started to work in Chicago, I did 3 musicals there on stage, and stayed there in the winter. Every single time I was cast in a show, it was during the winter. And I just love the architecture, food, the culture, similar to New York in the busyness, but different. And every time I go there, I feel like it's like a second or third home, kind of like what Michael mentioned before. So yeah, count me in as one of the top cities in our nation. Chicago is really one of those cities.
Yes, but we all love Southern California. We're here, have been here. Last Friday, I celebrated 9 years of being in LA, and I moved here specifically to do this. It's amazing how quickly those 9 years have flown by.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you a little bit about my Chicago story. I grew up in Chicago, South Side as well. But what's pivotal regarding what we're doing today is there was an after-school special about the Marva Collins story. And in that series, it was really apparent to me that one person could change lives. That, she was a teacher on the South Side of Chicago, given the students who could not, they were kind of written off. And she invested in them as a teacher. When she couldn't beat the system, she went out on her own, brought them into her home, and then eventually expanded to have her own school and created scholars out of children that society had cast away. And that really touched me at an early age, like I must have been about 12 or 13. And when I look back, and when I got to college and I look back in my life, because I have been concerned about how Black people were portrayed in media and entertainment, it was real clear the power that it had to uplift, to give you an idea, to give you access to thoughts that you may not have imagined. And I had good role models. Both of my parents were teachers, and I didn't want to be a teacher, but that movie taught me that one person can make a difference. And so I struck out, moving to LA to try to make a difference by creating impact media. So I thank you all for being here today. So let's get into it, guys. I want you to start off by telling us a little bit about some of the most memorable projects that you've worked on in your field. Carl, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, sure. Most memorable projects I've worked on, I would say 3 in particular. The first one was my first film, 1 Week, which premiered literally 20 years ago at ABFF in Acapulco, same alongside with Michael. That film was memorable to me. It was my first feature film. We shot it for like $50,000. ultra low budget. Everybody told us not to do it. We ignored everybody and just went on ahead and just blazed a path and went forward with it. And it was a great a successful run for us where we got distribution for it. It introduced us to the industry in various ways, and it was like our introduction to the industry out in LA as well. So that's number one. Number two would be a TV One film I did about 4 years ago called Bad Dad Rehab, which is about delinquent, less than stellar fathers who go to this rehab to become better fathers, and the impact it's had on people. It still airs on Father's Day on TV One.
Oh, absolutely.
And the impact it has had on people, and that gives me joy when people see the film that don't know me, reach out and say how it moved them to take action, or it moved them to, contemplate things, look at things differently. So that's always
It was so beautifufully done. I watched it, and I had my daughter watch it with me. It was very, very well done.
Yeah, and then the third thing would be my first episode of this TV show Rebel. I was hired by John Singleton to do 2 episodes of the show Rebel, which launched my television career. So those will be the 3 primarily.
Okay, Michael.
I would have to say All About You, because that was
my favorite.
That was my wife Christine Swanson's and my first feature film, and it was very different. As Carl knows, transitioning from short films to feature films is really like night and day. Yeah. But we went for it, and that film is also very special because it gave us the opportunity to meet Terron, and we've become like lifelong brothers since that. I mean, that was almost 20 years ago. 20 years ago, actually.
Yeah, 20 years ago.
And all the lessons that I learned from producing that film became very valuable to me throughout my career. I still look back on some of the things and some of the challenges even that we had to endure with getting the film made and released and seen around the country. But it also has become this evergreen. People still reference the movie. People still watch the movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Christine, Terron, Renee Elise Goldsberry, who is also another star of the film, and I did a 20-year screening reunion and Q&A.
Oh, yeah. We were there promoting and chiming.
That's right. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was so much fun.
It was fun. It was fun. And we're all close friends, but it was fun to kind of get together in front of the audience of all these people who have grown to love and appreciate All About You on another kind of level. It was so
like a family reunion.
It really was like a family reunion, and it took us right back. And the thing is, now we all have children. We're all older. I think we all look the same. Terron and I have a little bit less hair now, but it took us right back to that year when February 14th, 2000, when we started shooting the movie. And so I would say it has become the most memorable project, and the project that I learned the most from, and the project that when you do a lot of movies and projects, it's hard to determine which is your favorite. It's like, we have 4 children, so it's like you can't say this is my favorite child. You love each child for many different reasons. And so I would say I love All About You the most, for many different reasons, and it created the foundation from which we grew our careers.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've also seen you get pretty excited about your Broadway investment. So tell us a little bit about that, because we're celebrating all these segments: Broadway, Hollywood, music.
Okay, well, you're right. All About You is a wonderful movie project, and then who knew that all these years later I would become involved in a Broadway production, and that project is Ain't Too Proud: The Life and Times of the Temptations. And
amazing.
I had an opportunity to join the production as an investor, and I'm so happy I did. I'm so proud of the production and how it shows us as Black people on stage. The book is by a Black playwright, Black choreography, Black, just everything. It's really so well done. And to we're on a small pause now due to coronavirus, but we'll be back, and we're preparing to start a tour in the first quarter of 2021. But I'm so proud of it. I'm really, when I, go to the theater. We're playing at the Imperial Theater in New York on Broadway, and see the show. I just sit there and smile. And I've talked to Terron about this. I just smile from ear to ear. And I didn't write it. I'm not a producer. I just kind of wrote a check, but I feel like it was a way to support this, to get our art on the screen in front of people. Yes. And you go watch this musical and you look around and you see people from all walks of life, clapping and singing, and sometimes even dancing in the aisles. And
absolutely, it's a party.
It's really a wonderful feeling to know that you played a very small part in it, And so I sit there, and I've seen it several times now, but I sit there like a proud papa, just watching the cast members, and it's like we become family with the guys who play all of the Temptations, and even the ladies. It's such a phenomenal production. So I encourage you, on the other side of this COVID-19 pandemic, if you have an opportunity, please go watch it on Broadway. But again, we're going to do a 50-city tour as well, starting in first quarter of next year.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it again. Terron, what did you want to share about your most memorable projects?
I think, for me, it's on the piggyback of Michael's debut investment at Broadway. I got to be in The Lion King. That was my first Broadway show. And I'm proud of that, because I auditioned about 7 times for that, to be on Broadway and to do The Lion King, which is another beautiful representation of Black people.
Oh, yes.
Was a special thing to be a part of artistically for me. I also got to play Eddie Kendricks in the Temptations miniseries.
Yeah.
And I was very young when I got cast, so that was kind of my first experience, professional experience, that on world magnitude. And I always think about that job, because everything I do now, I say anything is possible, and so when I forget that, I always go back to my role in the Temptations and how I was cast and, picked out, barely had anything on the resume, and got to experience Smokey Robinson and working with Smokey Robinson and Hannah Robb. Just being a part of history, playing one of the emperors of soul, is probably the most proud I've ever been in my life, because I still play that all across the world. People still watch that, and it was such a special thing to be involved with Motown, which I love, music, and we're talking about those images that we're trying to highlight. The Temptations are still premier as a group for generations to come. So those 2 shows, and then recently I got to produce my own show, The Soul of Broadway, and I'm really proud to be a producer and a contributor to something of my own. We always look for people. We can audition and but to be able to create something for yourself, I think that's where I'm headed in the future. So I'm most proud of that project, showing people, because Broadway can be limited to some people who don't really care about theater, and say, and to show I don't want to say an African-American perspective, but to have me singing these Broadway songs and put my story into the show is really important. I think it's a different kind of take on Broadway songs that most people know. And so I'm really proud of that. That's what I've been doing recently.
Well, all of the work that was mentioned here and everything else that's in your catalog, it speaks to who you are, as people, and the impact that you're having. And that's why I invited you here today, for that, as well as who you are. I want to also ask you, because everyone knows that these industries, it's not easy. And we've got 3 brothers from the South Side of Chicago, 1 from Southern California, here in LA. What keeps you going? How do you stay focused in the midst of, when you're getting all the no's, nothing is happening? Let's encourage some people out there.
Well, first of all, you have to tap into your passion. And sometimes, because you're right, there are a lot of no's out here, a lot of no's, and sometimes you get yeses, and those yeses can be kicks in the teeth. So you have to fortify yourself. So remind yourself what got you what got you excited in the first place. What's your why? What makes you do this? Because a lot of people do this for money, and you quickly learn. One of the earlier lessons you learn, I think people learn when they get out here, is if you're chasing money, you're going to burn yourself out. You got to have a different level of desire to pursue this, because there's so much effort required just to get the opportunity to do this for a living. And then also you want to surround yourself with like-minded individuals. A lot of people, you can find yourself around, a lot of naysayers and doubters and just a lot of negativity, which can douse your fire. So you want to surround yourself with people that encourage you, that inspire you, that push you as well. So those are the main things I'd say.
Absolutely. Thank you, Carl. Terron, Michael, either one.
Well, I would say it's for me the pursuit. What am I pursuing? And I've made a decision a long time ago to try to pursue inspiration. So, and I define success on inspiration, not on the project or how big it is, or if I'm famous or how much money I'm making. And so when things are like a roller coaster, or things may seem like they're not working, can I be an inspiration in anything that I do? And that's more of the success for me. So I don't have to worry about the highs and lows of Hollywood or the business. So I would say, what are you pursuing? And how do you define your success? Is it if you have the #1 movie? Is it how much money you're making? How many followers you have? If that's what you're defining success on, then you might have a trouble when those dips and highs and lows come for you. But if you have your own definition of what success is, family, faith, inspiration, then the lens is a little bit different. Your perspective is different. I think you can have more joy in this. We're all trying to do this for our life. So it's not just about one moment. It's about the journey of the whole thing. So I think for me, it's also, and I failed in that way many, many times, looking to the left and looking to the right and getting discouraged here or there. So I have to be honest. But what brings me back to my center is like, man, what is your pursuit? And then I go, well, yeah, I'm pursuing this. Then you're okay, So that's basically my take on that.
I would have to echo what Terron says, and also, when it's really interesting. I don't identify the things that I go after anymore like I did in the beginning of my career. I'm a little bit more purposeful now, and I kind of allow things to happen, and I gravitate toward things that I feel I'm supposed to be a part of, or that I'm supposed to do. So it's like I take a step back now, and I say, okay, what am I supposed to be doing? And I listen and I pray, and I use that to kind of take my next step. It's almost like you measure twice and cut once. I'm not going from A to Z as quickly as I can anymore. I'm just kind of floating to see where I can be used, where I can be a blessing, and where I can be a vessel to other people. And that has worked for me. And it also brings a lot of peace when you shape it that way, because it's not about you reaching, so many, goals or benchmarks. I need to be where God needs me to be when he needs me to be there. And that's worked for me really well.
All of that. Excellent, advice and encouragement. As I mentioned, Impact Media was created to support individuals like you, content creators that are doing this work, as well as, the great content that's out there. Tell us, we want to be supportive, and we want to encourage others to be supportive. And I'd like for you to share, how we can support you, how we can, encourage the industry to create more content like the content you produce and create. So tell us what you're working on now and how we can support you.
Let me chime in first. Before I even talk about what I'm working on, I just want to mention the fact that we're in the midst of a pivotal shift in society.
Yes.
And that lens of the perception of Black men in particular, Black lives in general, but specifically Black men, is shifting. So it is imperative that our stories are being told, and not
Yes.
just stories of slavery, but stories of our strength, our power, our unification, our intelligence and intellect. So anybody out there that has a dream to tell stories, it is imperative that you tell these stories. I mean, truth be told, we need you to tell these stories because there's so many stories of ours that have not been told because of systemic oppression. So this crisis has created an opportunity that is creating an avenue that's going to allow us to tell even more stories that can flourish, that can reach the world. So I would insist anybody out here with that dream or that desire, because of technology, I mean, you can tell a story from your phone. You can shoot it on your phone. You can edit it on your phone. You can post it all from your phone. So I would say learn the craft. Spend your time learning the craft. Respect the craft that you are pursuing. Learn that, and then just find out the story that speaks to you and tell that story. In relation to what I'm working on, everything is on hold. I work in episodic television, so everything is really on pause still, and everybody's still trying to figure out the safest way to get back into production so that everybody is working effectively without, the virus spreading or anyone, catching it, getting sick, and God forbid anybody dying. So right now, these things are still being figured out. I mean, people are projecting days when we're going to get back to work, but right now there's still too much uncertainty because this virus in particular is constantly moving the goalposts. It's not like a cold where these are the sneezing or fever, anything like that. One person may have 1 degree of symptoms, one person may have another. So and now that it's mutating, it's getting even more elusive. So until they can figure out how to control it, that's going to impede how we move forward in terms of production. So but personally, I'm writing, working on my own miniseries, a very profound Chicago story with some other Chicagoans, and then just like I said, learning the craft to be the best storyteller that I can be.
Okay. Terron?
Well, for me, I think just supporting independent. I'm an independent artist, so what I would just say for anybody watching or listening is that there's mainstream artists, there's popular mainstream artists, popular mainstream actors. But for me, if people want to support, going on iTunes, you can just type my name in and just listen to the music and just be supporting, not even financially, but just in getting feedback. Because I'm on social media, Facebook, Instagram, feedback of what people, what ministers to them, what touches them, inspiration. I wrote a book 2 years ago called Something Good on the Table. That's on Amazon.com. And that's an inspirational book. So I think it's just the culture, so much out there. You got Netflix, you got so much to watch and see and listen to. But if we keep supporting our independent artists, that would be something that I would ask people just to consider.
It's very important.
And I'm just like Carl, I'm working on my show, and my show got stopped because, theaters shut down. So once that comes back, I can go back on the road with my show. But that's also a record called The Soul of Broadway. So you can listen to that also on iTunes as well. But I just think it's the support and the elevation, share what you support. If you hear something that you like, say, that's what happened with All About You. It's just like sometimes I'm in a store and I get recognized and I'm imagining they sell The Temptations or something, and they'll go, no, it's that movie. They might not even know the name. That movie with the beautiful Black couple, and they're so excited about it. And that's, I believe, that underground grassroots effort of people just saying, see this, see this, see this. And we do that well as Black people. We know how to tell somebody we like something. And if we continue to do that, I think that will help everybody along the way.
Absolutely. It's kind of counterculture. The culture really projects everyone complaining. And that's what you see a lot of on social media. And through Impact Media and our Positive Impact campaign, we're trying to help make that shift. It's like, don't give attention to the things that you don't support and that you don't like. Use your platform to support people and the things that you do appreciate. It's so important. We need to be more selective about how we use our voice, because we're giving them free airtime. We're giving them advertising when we do that. And it's a much better use of the time and the space if we acknowledge the good things and the positive things that we like instead of just complaining. Now, we do need to complain. we do need to complain sometimes, but let that not be our primary voice.
Yes, and Kelly, also the competitiveness of saying that there's not enough for everyone. So I need to hoard my moment. I don't believe that. I should be able to support any other singer, any other artist, because I am not separate from other people. We're together, especially in our culture. We are one, we uplift each other. So this notion that I got to get mine is we got to kind of grow out of that to understand that, hey, my brother's doing something else. And I learned that pretty late in the game, because I was that person. And now I just love to collaborate, because it's that collaboration with other artists that actually might open the door for you that you're not even thinking about, or sharpen your skill in a way where you might be weaker in a certain area, and then you get with somebody else and they can uplift you. That's what we have to kind of start building, those relationships, instead of being so competitive all the time. But it starts with believing that there's enough, for everyone.
Absolutely. And when I created Impact Media, it's Impact Media and Entertainment Coalition. And I was like, there's a lot of good work that's going on out there. But from my perspective, when I came, it seemed like it was disjointed. And I'm like, if the Black groups kind of came together and we supported each other, the shared mission and vision that we have, the collective mission, as well as supporting each independent entity. And then it should be cross-sector, quite honestly, because in order to really make change using media and entertainment, the other sectors have to be involved, and media and entertainment has to be at the table when we're looking at solving social issues. They are playing a major part in contributing to it, and they should be held responsible as their corporate social responsibility to contributing to the solutions as well. So, but that collaboration, that coalition building is so important. So thank you. Michael?
A great way to support some of the work I've done is to watch it, share it if you like it, share it with other people. All About You, All About Us, The Wayman Tisdale Story are some of the movies that are available on Amazon Prime and other streaming platforms. The TV shows, like Carl said, we are in just kind of a holding mode. I've been busy the last few weeks coming up with budgets and schedules for 7 TV shows that I oversee that are trying to relaunch production between mid-July and December. And we're planning, but now what we're seeing is a kind of this extended wave happening in the country. Mm-hmm. So there's so much uncertainty, especially for this, not only episodic television, but I would say for feature films, for the movie industry as well. And then some of the shows I work on are Master of None, Good Girls, The Good Place, Parks and Recreation, Community I've worked on in the past are now available. So, just Never Have I Ever is a new series I just did that's on Netflix now. So it's lots of different work, but I always say it's important to support the independent projects because they're difficult to get made. And I think there's so much heart and passion that go behind those projects. And most times they're really, they're a little bit more engaging than some of the bigger Hollywood productions. It's not paint by numbers. It's a lot of sweat and blood put into these independent records, songs that are released, independent movies, independent webisodes. So I think it's really important to support independent artists. That's where a lot of the gold is.
Absolutely. Thank you. So we know how important mentoring is. It's extremely important. I'd like for you to share how some of your mentors have impacted you and how you pay it forward. Carl, why don't we start with you? Carl came on a few weeks ago celebrating our Positive Impact Scholars, and I asked him to mentor one, and he offered to support all 4 of them. And it was a huge surprise to all of us, and it was such a blessing. And I thank you again, Carl, for your commitment to just being a mentor and someone that's making a positive impact. So why don't you share a little bit about the other things that you do as well?
Well, yeah, I have to echo what Terron said earlier about the ideology that there's enough for us all and that we're all protected, and I came up in a different, coming up, I used to seek out a mentor. I sought him out. I wanted a mentor so badly. And it didn't really go the way I thought it would go. And I had to learn this lesson, which is you don't pick a mentor picks you. And that's pretty much how you really want it to be, because when a mentor picks you, that means they see something in you that deserves to be fed, nourished, and encouraged. So I take that very seriously, because I also remember being a young guy, just not wanting money or a job, just insight and game so that I can strategically map out my own path. So I'm always mindful of that. And I try to be as open with people as possible. People hit me on social media with questions and things of that nature. And I try to give them insights. And really it just comes from me sharing my experiences with them, which will prevent them from making some of the headless mistakes that I made, back in the day. And like I said, there's enough for us out there for all. And I don't look at someone else as competition. And I have enough security in myself and my capabilities to not be, intimidated by someone else's light. Like I've been in situations where someone tried to dim my light, and I'll never forget that. So I'm always, when I see young filmmakers and young artists just learning to express themselves, but making mistakes, there's a way to, teach them without nullifying them or shutting them down or just dousing their fire. So, I really take that seriously, because as we evolve and as we grow as a community, it's imperative that we reach back to not just lift each other up and give each other opportunities, but and it's not just filmmakers either. It's young men, it's young women, it's certain things that you don't know what you don't know until someone exposes you to it. So I'm always kind of mindful of that, and I take it really seriously. So now I have a tribe of mentors that I reach out to. They reach out to me to just share things, and that's the thing. When you have a great mentor, it's not about you always reaching out to them. It's them picking up the phone, calling you, say, "Hey, I want to teach you something." So I was with one of my mentors yesterday, and he was giving me an example of directing technique and applying it to architecture and home design, which was amazingly mind-blowing, that I can apply to how I read a script. So there's little things like that I want to constantly incorporate and then give out. I can't say this enough, but Terron hit it best. Hoarding things blocks the flow of everything. Yes. It goes against nature to hoard. So I make it a point to not be a hoarder, just to kind of be a vessel to just keep passing information and knowledge down.
Absolutely. Thank you. I feel like I'm in church, getting all from all these different churches, wherever you worship. Very, very powerful life lessons. Michael, what about you?
Yes, I have mentors who have poured into my life for decades, and it's so important to have mentors because, and I think Carl alluded to this a bit as well, is you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So many people have gone before us and have tried things and have made mistakes and learned lessons from those mistakes that they can pass on to us, and likewise that we can pass on to others. And I make it a point to meet with people who reach out to me, whether it's through LinkedIn or we have mutual friends and they email me, because it's important to just take time to share your knowledge and to share your wisdom with people who are coming behind you. And it, like Carl said, it may not be for the entertainment industry. It may be an entirely different field, but you can impart so much wisdom and experience that can also help inform what that person is doing or wants to pursue in another field. And I think that's really important. I also think you can have mentors without having personal access to him or her. There are a lot of books that you can read now because of technology. There's so many podcasts, interviews you can listen to, and you can learn so much about that person. And you don't have to have that person's phone number or email address or need to sit down and meet with him or her all the time to glean from them. There's information out there. I mean, we've all done podcasts and interviews, so you can do your research and hear about process and hear about our experiences and hear how we overcame various obstacles throughout our journey. So that's important to remember as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And Michael, I just want to thank you and Christine, because what you said about being accessible, I can definitely verify that, because I called the number on the website or sent the info at faithfilmworks.com, and Christine responded. And whenever I reach out, both of you, when you can, you're there. And I just really appreciate that, because we need to be able to share. And it's for me to be able to share with others. And you've always been there and just always been such a sound voice of wisdom for people. And I really appreciate both of you for that. And and all of you. And I've seen Terron through social media use his platform, Carl as well. So it goes for all of you. You've all been extremely accessible and willing to support. And that's what we need more of, because, you know, there's this illusion that some people are better than others based on position, no matter what industry you're in. And I've never subscribed to that. I'm like, we are all God's children. We are all the same. And thank you for living that and displaying that. Terron?
Yeah, I believe that every lesson learned is a lesson taught. You know, whatever you go through is for your education and help of others. So I wouldn't be here without a mentor. Young, I was shy. There's no reason why I should be a performer. My parents said I actually hated people. I used to cry all the time and sing songs and be wobbling on the mic. And, but there was a mentor. There was somebody. It was a strong Black woman who, because my parents didn't understand entertainment. They didn't come from that. But she saw something in me, and she pulled me aside and taught me and groomed me and pulled out all the passion that was underneath and gave me like a road to go on and see that it was possible. And I think we all need those people to see that investment and try to point us in the right direction. So, and I got two other mentors. Michael's one of my mentors. He's one of my best friends. And my friend Jerry, they both were in my wedding. Jerry's a man of faith. I need inspiration as far as like Bible and the scriptures. He does it in such a non-judgmental way. Every time I talk to him for hours, he's always just imparting some biblical knowledge that really uplifts me. Michael, his humility, in the industry that we're in, you don't see many confident men that don't have an air about them that just are so open and humble. Just being in his presence is an example. He doesn't even know what he's doing for me and how to operate in this kind of grab 'em kind of world. You kind of feel like I got to be tough, I got to be strong, I got to assert myself, and Michael does that in such the opposite way. So I just really respect those men in my life. And my father, my father doesn't come from the entertainment side at all, but he has in me about hard work and mostly reputation. My dad said, "Who are you? Make sure that you know whose you are. I'm a child of God, and make sure that you always walk in that integrity." As far as being a mentor, it's like I'm so open on my social media. And because social media, we can access so many people. So I'll get on my phone and just talk to people, and whether they're mentees or not, I just want to share. Hey, this is what happened to me.
Yes.
This is how I failed. This is what I discovered today. And being open, using social media as that mentor kind of wall. It used to be where you never had access to any artist you liked or a singer or an actor. And now everybody seems to break that kind of wall down. And I'm open. I tell anybody, call me, email me, ask me a question, but also that vulnerability of saying, yeah, I made a mistake, not perfect. I'm willing to show that in order to help the other generation not make those mistakes, and also say it's okay to find your way. It's okay to ask a question, and it's okay to make it right when you do something wrong, Yes. So my mentoring style is mostly like, I'm a life coach. I'm really an advocate for artists who don't balance their life in a way. They're thinking about their success, their career, money, their goals, and then their life is over here. And they're miserable in their life because of the way that they need to kind of balance that out. And I try to offer, hey, do you have a family? What other things do you have that make you whole, as opposed to your identity being in one thing? So it's a great question, Kelly. I think mentoring is our job. Some people say you don't want to be a role model. I'm not a role model. Don't look at me. And that's the each his own.
We don't have that option.
I don't
We don't have that option.
Yeah.
I don't have that option. It's not in the budget.
Yeah, you're not responsible for everybody, and
Right.
everybody's choices. But I think if you, and especially as Black people, I mean, we don't have an option to say we don't get to uplift and we don't get to inspire from all of our ancestors and all the people that have come before us. It's a slap in the face to say that it's all about me now. So,
thank you for that point, because I firmly subscribe to that. And I've been so fortunate to have been adopted, mentored, sponsored, adopted by so many incredible men and women. When I was in college, I actually helped write the diversity. I did an assessment of kind of their diversity stats and made recommendations, which became the plan for the university. And part of it was they needed training. I'm in Des Moines, Iowa, at Drake University, and they brought C.T. Vivian, who worked with Dr. King, to do his race awareness training. And I mean, I'm sitting on the edge of my seat during this training, and he stops and he's like, "Sister Delta, you want to do this, don't you?" And I'm like, "I do." And he said, "You will." And I stayed in touch with him, and 10 years after that time, he called me, he said, "We're going to your hometown, Chicago. You ready?" I'm like, "What do you mean? You're going to do the workshop with me?" I'm like, "I haven't been to," he said, "Don't worry, you'll be fine." But he has remained, beyond a mentor, like family to this day. Was at his 95th birthday party last year. He'll be 96 in next month in July. And such a blessing, along with Dr. Claude George, who made it possible, upon meeting him, for me to go to Africa. He started the International Student Exchange Program for the Atlanta Public Schools, and it became the model across the nation. There's so many. I even had the opportunity to shadow Dr. Dorothy Height, my soror, when she was at the helm of NCNW in the early 90s. So there are just so many people who, you can glean from. And then there's also just, we have, people that you come across, even if it's just once or twice. I have this video on our website from John Maxwell he does this 1-minute video, and it was talking about impact. And it says that you can impact someone. It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. It can be a very small thing. But if it's inspired by the heart, that's how you have an impact. And that has been kind of our guiding principle, with Impact Media. I want to hear a little bit more about how you're engaged, in your community. Do you have any particular philanthropic interest, community interest? How do you get, outside of work and live and contribute to community?
Well, me personally, as of late, I've been working with a organization that provides bail for protesters. Because of the civil unrest, a lot of people have been, arrested for various reasons, and they need bail. And so providing that financial, resource is one thing. Other than that, I don't have a specific organization I work with. I work with various organizations that will kind of reach out to me. So I can't say I have like a flagship company that I work with.
Sure.
People reach out to me all the time, and I try to say yes as often as possible. If I do say no, it's got to be a very valid reason that's going to prevent me from, contributing or helping in some way, shape, or form. So, something like an organization will hit me up and ask me if I'll speak to, 10 young Black men. And I'm like, absolutely. And then I try to do what they ask me to do, and then take it a step further. So I'll speak to them. They say, "You want to speak for 15 minutes?" I say, "Well, let's talk an hour." And then I'll say, give the kids my email address or whatever. So if they need to reach out to me, I can be this resource to them. So things of that nature. And then I've done a couple of things through my fraternity as well, Kappa Alpha Psi. So I would say Kappa Alpha Psi would probably be the biggest thing I've worked through. But for the most part, I'm more like an independent contractor. So I can just kind of go wherever I am needed.
And I can attest to that. I've seen that amplification from the original request through what you did for our scholars. Thank you so much. Michael?
I'm a board member of an organization here in Los Angeles called Success Through Education Program, or the acronym STEP is what we call it, the STEP Foundation. And we raise money for scholarships that go to underserved students in South Los Angeles, South and East Los Angeles. And we send them to schools all over the city. And also that's reached into providing college scholarship funds for them. And it's been a blessing for them and their families because without our assistance, they wouldn't have an opportunity to go to the private schools. So, you know, some of the schools in the area just aren't up to par like we would all want. And so we raise money and we send them to private schools and Catholic schools throughout the city.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. Terron?
Well, for me, I think recently I ran the half marathon, Los Angeles half marathon for World Vision. So through my church, New Song LA, I have just partnered. We sponsor a child for World Vision, me and my wife, but just clean water for children. $50 gives a child clean water for their whole lifetime. And so I'm really an advocate for that, World Vision. Nothing else, but usually when I used to go to church, I used to not actually be in my community, and I had to drive far to find the church that maybe served me and my family. And now we found New Song LA. I live in Baldwin Hills, and New Song LA is in Culver City. So just the church, the local church is important to give and help and be involved with. But World Vision is children are on my heart. And my son has autism. So I'm really an advocate for mental health and children that need to have advocates, whether they're in broken homes and they don't have parents that can really take care of them, or just raising awareness that trying to help the less fortunate is what we're all trying to do. Those people that may not have what we have is just a constant thing, especially as an artist. There is the physical music and the producing of the art, but it's also the tangible help that we can have, the reach that we can have as artists to raise people up who are just, they don't have what we have. They're less fortunate than we are.
Wonderful. So we do have a couple comments. An anonymous comment is great. That was earlier in the conversation. And then Tony Hobson said, "Bless you, sis and brothers. Keep up the great work." That's Tony Hobson. So, you know, we celebrated Father's Day recently, and I want to wish you all a happy belated Father's Day. I have seen up close and on social media with most of you how being a dad is really important to you, and you take, you know, you're very excited about it and take a lot of pride in that and your children and have a lot of love for them. I want you to, you know, give a shout out about how it feels to be a dad, you know, and a family man. So take a moment to do that. Whoever wants to start.
I love being a dad, and I think that's my most important job, responsibility, because I'm shaping the minds of my children, which ultimately affects how they raise their children one day. And so I have three sons and one daughter between the ages of 11 and 19. So we're in the trenches. You have teenagers, you have those who are driving, you have those who are in middle school. And it's interesting. I've had to learn throughout the years that you deal with each of them in a different way. Some are sensitive, some are strong-willed, and it's very important that you don't break their spirits. And it's been a joy to be a father. You know, growing up, in my mind, for some reason, and I don't know if my wife appreciates this because I kind of dumped this on her, but growing up, we always heard Dr. King's speech, I Have a Dream speech. And you do these oratorical contests growing up, and you learn this speech for school to recite later. And in that speech, he says, "My four little children. One day, I hope my four little children grow up and they're not judged."
Yes.
So in my mind, okay, if you want to be like Dr. King, you have to have four children, and that stuck with me. And unfortunately, Christine got stuck with me, and that.
I haven't heard this story before.
Here we are with four children, all because of Martin Luther King Jr. And,
I've never heard that he's inspired people in that way. I'm gonna have to write that one down.
But yeah, I love being a dad, and there's never. It's an interesting story. We found out that we were pregnant with our first child, our oldest child, a day before we started shooting All About You. And nobody knew this. I think eventually we told Terron and Renee, but we didn't want to share that with the entire crew. And, Christine, we didn't want them treating her differently, and because she was pregnant. And so our oldest son, Cole, has been a part of this whole journey with us from the very first day of shooting, nursing him in the editing room. And now he's become this filmmaker, NYU Tisch School of the Arts, and studying directing, and has created short films that have won awards and played around the world. And Christine and I didn't get to pursue this industry, this career of storytelling, until we were in college. So with the advances in technology, they have access to make films at a very young age from an iPhone, and he has his own camera. So it's really phenomenal to watch this as a parent, father, to see what you've done and how it carries over to your children. It's just a blessing. And
you're raising funds for one of his projects now. What's it called?
Yes, his latest or upcoming short film is called Baby, and he's raising money for Baby to produce that when it's safe to do so.
Okay. And how can people access that if they want to make a contribution?
They can visit his Instagram page, Cole Swanson, at Cole Swanson _, and there's a link to invest in his Baby short film project through Indiegogo. Or maybe you can go to Indiegogo as well and do a search for Baby or Cole Swanson. Okay.
And Michael, why don't you give how people can follow you on social media as well, and you too, Terron and Carl, as you wrap up with this section. Okay.
I'm on Instagram. I'm on Instagram and Twitter, and my handle is @ME_Swanson, and I'm also on Facebook, Michael Swanson. I'm also on LinkedIn, Michael Swanson.
All righty. Thank you. Terron?
I love being a dad too, but I'm gonna be honest, it's hard. It's hard work. And I say that only because me being a man, being a father has pulled things out of me and made me stronger, made me, wherever I thought I was weak, being a father, I had to act more of myself. So I attribute so much to my children shaping me as a man, not just as a father, because I had to reflect a certain light on them, and they're reflecting a light on me. And sometimes what they're reflecting on me is not pretty. And I got to be like, oh, I got to change that. I got to grow in that area because I'm responsible for these children. Puts a greater responsibility. They always say, you put God first in your family than everyone else. And I totally believe that. I have a mandate from God. But then I look at my family and I have a responsibility to them to really be not the words, not just saying stuff, just be the example. So they challenge me in a great way. I'm not saying it's a bad way. I think it's a beautiful way for them to, and how they come is, I've learned you have a plan about your children, what you want them to be, how you want them to grow. You kind of have to take what God has given them already and work with that. And it's slowed me down. It's humbled me in many ways. But I just attribute a lot of my patience and some attributes that I actually needed to work on by actually being a father. Acceptance not just of them, but of myself. So I'm really glad that God, made me a father, and they're just amazing kids. And I learn every day. As much as we talk about mentoring and being a teacher, my kids have taught me so much, about life. So you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, just Terron Brooks.
All righty. Thank you. Carl?
Well, I am a brand new dad. I just celebrated my first Father's Day.
Yes.
Yeah, my daughter is 5 months old. She'll be 6 months old next Monday. So it's all everything is new. Everything is brand new. I mean, I had ducked and dodged this level of responsibility for a long time. It's really cool because I mean, you wake up in the morning, you're looking at her, she's looking at you, and just doing different things. I can't carry a note. So let me be clear. I am not a singer in any stretch, but I sing with her all the time. So, and right now she's loving it. I am like one of the greatest singers on the planet right now, but I know I'm on borrowed time, but it's cool. And like you said, I'm learning about myself and looking at it through her lens and realize I'm mindful of what I'm going to pour into her to make sure that she's a fully developed human so that she can go on and elevate humanity as well. So it's all in. And being here for the pandemic has actually been a blessing as well, because I saw her first smile. I hear her laugh now. She's grabbing things. She's sitting up. Little things like that I may have missed from work. So that's another reason why I've been embracing this global pause, because I'm seeing my child develop exponentially. Every week something different is happening, and I'm witnessing it. So it's pretty cool. And I mean, I'm here for the long ride. And I look at other brothers that have raised children and saying, okay, it can be done. I know it's gonna be hard. I'm not delusional thinking, oh, it's gonna be like the Cosby Show every Thursday. No, I'm not thinking like that. No. But I've prepared myself to do the work and do it to the best of my ability. So I'm all in. And this, like I said, it's been a great ride. So she's a lot of fun.
And folks can follow you.
Follow Mr. Carl Seaton on all social media.
Okay.
Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Mr. Carl Seaton.
All right, and I'm going to let you all say just brief closing comments, whatever you want to say to close us out. Carl, why don't you start? Anybody listening,
if you have the desire to pursue something and fear is stopping you, do not be afraid to fail. In fact, you won't fail because there are no losses in life, there are only lessons. So get out there, respect the craft, educate yourself. And when I say educate yourself, it's not about necessarily going to school all the time. It's about educating. Like Michael said earlier, you have access to so much information right now. Whatever you desire, you can learn about and educate yourself so that can move you forward. So don't be afraid to fail. Get out there and prepare yourself accordingly.
Thank you, Carl. Michael?
I would say and try to encourage everyone to understand that you're on your own pathway. Try not to compare yourself to the person on your left or on your right, but focus on your own journey. You'll get to where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. Enjoy the ride on the way to your destination. Don't worry. Even things that you worry about, most times they work themselves out anyway. So stay encouraged. Don't lose sleep over stuff. Enjoy the simple things in life that sometimes we often take for granted. I think in this pandemic, we've been able to appreciate the smaller things in life. We go for walks now in our neighborhood, and it seems like the birds are chirping louder than normally. And I think it's because there are less airplanes in the sky, there are less cars driving around Los Angeles. So these birds have lungs that can now breathe freely. And so we're enjoying the beautiful small things of life. And that's what life is about. It's not about climbing certain ladders and going as fast as you can to achieve something. That's all fine and well, but there has to be balance. And you have to prioritize things if there is imbalance. So that's really important. And I think it is worthy to be reminded and to say it over and over again, because we can get caught up, especially in our society, in our capitalistic society. But the things that you do in your life, can affect you for the rest of your life. So choose wisely and be purposeful and be patient. Sometimes things take a long time.
Yes.
You know, most overnight successes take 10 years. I know that you'll get to where you're supposed to be, You got to understand, you know, don't pursue something because you think, oh, that's sexy, or, oh, I can make a lot of money doing that, or be true to yourself, because you'll be miserable doing something if you're not supposed to be doing it. So really take this time during this pause, this reset time, to self-evaluate and understand, why am I here? What's my true purpose? What would fulfill me? And how am I supposed to use my gift that God's given? He's given each one of us a gift, right? So be true to yourself, and don't just check boxes like, okay, that person did that, I should do that, I should meet that person. You can drive yourself crazy. So just take a pause, be still, evaluate, reassess where you are in life, especially during this time, and come out of this pandemic with more purpose, more intent. And I think you'll, as a result, be very fulfilled, less stressed, and have much more peace.
Thank you, Michael. Terron?
I would say gratitude, just foster a heart of gratitude, especially in this industry. I mean, I could look at my resume and see what's not on there, or I could see what's on there. And I can be like, wow, this is what I've done. This is, many people would love to do some of the things that I have done. And just to continue to foster that heart of gratitude, because we don't deserve any of this, And so if you have this posture that it's mine, I deserve it, I've worked hard, that's part of it. But these are gifts that's been given to us, and opportunities that some people would love to have that is in your lap right now. If you don't cherish those grateful moments, those that you already have gone through, there'll always be something afterwards. You'll always be thirsty for more, and you're never going to be satisfied. So just owning a heart of gratitude, and also knowing you're not going to go bankrupt giving. Give, give, because in the giving that's when you actually start to receive more of what you need. And so if you hold everything like this, there's nothing can come in your hands. I got this. Let all that stuff go, and there's more for you to receive. So I think gratitude and never being afraid of giving, like that you would be bankrupt, is one of those two things. And also just authenticity. Michael's talked about it, Carl's talked about it. I think there is some personal work that we all have to do to even know who we are. Someone says, well, just be who you are. Well, who is that? And even at my age right now, I'm still evolving and trying to define who am I. And so when projects comes, or questions comes, or invitations come, I can just decide, well, who am I? Does that fit with what I'm trying to do? And that could be sobering to ask yourself that. But every day, who am I? Who do I want to be? So then you just live in that authentic way. People receive that more than the characters and the mask that we put up and all that. Let all that stuff go, and really be the power that you have as God has made you, and how God has intended you to be. So those are the things that I would say.
Wow. If I could have scripted this, I mean, each of you touched on everything that I would want people to know and hear today. I am so full, and I know they are too. And I'm just honored that you're here. I'm honored that you are who you are, and that you're using your gifts to bless others. Thank you so much for being here. I really am very full, and I'm very excited about what's to come, and looking forward to seeing how we can take this message, even further, and explore other ways to support each other. But I wish you all the best, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
It's good to do.
I'll see you.
It's good to do this with my buddies, Terron and Carl.
Exactly. This is, and this is. I'm sure people did not expect to hear what they heard today, coming out of Black men in Hollywood, Broadway, in the music industry. And that's exactly why we're here, is to show a different side of what's out there, because there's a lot of diversity there. Mm-hmm. We're not monolithic. Yeah. So thank you for demonstrating that.
Yeah. Appreciate you. Appreciate
Alrighty.
you.
Have a great, great weekend.
You too as well.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
Too.
Thank
Congrats on
you.
your daughter.
All right,
Congrats.
y'all be easy.
Yes.
All right. See you soon.
All right, guys. Wow. 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 I am so, so full and just pleased. I knew when I decided to close out this month of focusing on Black men and fathers and leaders that um, I would be remiss if I didn't highlight and celebrate, men who are really raising the bar and sharing positivity and being a light, here in Los Angeles. And I'm so grateful to Terron, Michael, and Carl for being with us today. And I can't thank you enough, as viewers, supporters of Impact Media, for your support of me, of Impact Media and Entertainment Coalition, and of Impact Media Presents. It has been an absolute joy to create content and feature stories of positive and uplifting people and organizations. I launched Impact Media Presents in quarantine on April 18th. And since then, I've produced and hosted 18 shows. Today was the 19th show. And mostly they've been on Saturday mornings. But in July, we're actually going to try something new. We're going to broadcast at various times throughout the week. So just continue to tune in to the Positive Impact campaign to check our weekly schedule to find out, when our programming is airing. We're going to try some new things. It's quarantine. We've got to figure some things out. And actually, we're coming out of quarantine. So a lot of you are no longer stationary and remaining in on a Saturday morning, mid-morning, afternoon, all across the country. So we're going to meet you where you are, as we always try to do. And we're really excited. Make sure you tune in. Our first show in July 1st. It's going to be absolutely incredible. It's going to be part 3 in the series, Where Do We Go From Here? And it's where do we go from here? National leaders. So we have the national leaders of our legacy organizations. We're still in the midst of confirming some women-led organizations, but we do have the CEO and president of the National Urban League, Mark Morial, the CEO and president of the NAACP, Derek Johnson, is confirmed as well, along with the executive director of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, Dwayne Crawford. You do not want to miss this. It will be airing at 10 a.m. Pacific time and 1 p.m. Eastern time. So we look forward to seeing you then. Until then, take care, God bless, and stay positive. Have a great weekend.